All right, let's talk about creativity, shall we? Hey there, Enterprisers, what's good? It's Jason Lago here again, and in this video I want to talk to you about how to become more creative. That's right, how to become more creative, how to tap into your creativity. Let's go ahead and talk about it, right? This is one of those things where if you're like me, you've probably thought to yourself at one time or another, gee, I could never do what all those different types of people do, right? And you see this and act this way, particularly when you see a lot of different things, right? For some people, it's the creativity with to the extent that they create their videos and their Instagram reels and their TikToks, right? Maybe it's the imaging that they put out there in some of their posts, or maybe the thumbnails, you know? And a lot of these things are really, really cool, but the reality is anyone is creative to a certain extent. And may I say everyone, you know? I don't care who you are, you've got some strengths somewhere. With that said though, I believe that creativity and the ability to really expand yourself in this type of way really comes down on you. And I do think that there are some things that you can do that can help you add to this repertoire, if you will, right? To add more bows and arrows in your quiver. You can definitely train yourself to grow and become something that you haven't been, right? There's development room for everyone, right? Especially at this time of the year when really trying to better ourselves is one of those things that is at the top of our priority list. So without further ado, let me just give you a few simple ways to increase your creativity. They're simple, they're practical, but as usual, they're very, very powerful if you think about these things and if you implement them. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Number one, capture new ideas. Okay, capture new ideas. Now, the reason why I want to start with this is because you probably, again, if you're like me or anyone else, a lot of people that I know, sometimes ideas, new ideas and fresh ideas, they do come to you, right? You could be sitting there thinking to yourself, working, or maybe you're not even in a thinking or creative mode, but you're observant, and maybe you get inspiration from something that you see out there. For instance, in my case, really what gets me is paying attention to other types of marketing, right? As a marketer, I love to look at what other people are doing and to see what's out there. And so I will draw inspiration from many different things. It could be a billboard, it could be the sign on a bus that's passing by. Whatever it is, though, you want to make sure that you capture it. Because again, also, one thing that I'm guilty of, and maybe you are too, is you get a good idea and you have to sideline it and think that you want to develop it later because you're engrossed in something else, or maybe you're occupied by something else, and then what happens? You forget about it and it gets lost in cyberspace, right? It gets lost in translation, it gets lost in really open space, and now you can't think of it and work on it anymore, right? So what I would encourage you to do is to do what I do, and anytime an idea comes on, maybe it's a new reel that I want to try, a new TikTok, or a new piece of content I want to try to come out, or a new marketing campaign, a new funnel, whatever it is, when you get the idea, try your best and immediately take it out of your head and put it down elsewhere. One of the things that I like to do is to bust out my cell phone and bring up my notepad, or write a message to myself or something like that. Sometimes I'll even go so far as to schedule it on my calendar and say, continue to develop this or work on this, right? But at the very least, go ahead and send yourself a message. Go ahead and open up notes or notepad or something like that on your phone, or if you're old school and you want to write it on pen and paper, you can do that too. But it's one of the best things that you can do, in my opinion, because the more that you get into this creative flow and the juices start to go and you get to see inspiration, you might find yourself doing this multiple times a day. I know that I have. And so what I like to do is just always keep this running bank of ideas, this running bank of creativity plays that I can put into place, and then ultimately I can find myself to create and develop those things further on down the line. And you might just have one simple theme, one simple idea, but if you take the time to develop it later, now you've got 3, 4, 5 pieces of content, right? One simple idea could turn into that. If you think about one theme or one thing that you want to do and you sit down and work it out, I promise you, if you're, especially once you get good at this, you'll create a Facebook post, you'll create an Instagram post, you'll create a short reel video, you'll create a long-term video, a live presentation agenda. I'm telling you what, the opportunities are endless if you go ahead and put your time into this. So number one, capture new ideas. Number two, try new things. Okay, try new things. And I can't say this enough because it is one of those things where a lot of people don't want to stretch and push themselves, but they want to be able to grow. And you just can't have one without the other. You really can't in the big picture and in the long range scheme of things. So try new things. For some people, they get comfortable doing their own thing. And I'm okay with that because I think you need to go with what you know, especially initially. You need to get good at something first. You've heard me say that. However, there does come a time where it's time to expand. It's time to grow, right? It's time to learn. learn. And so with that, if you've been thinking about doing something for a while, I would encourage you, go ahead and start learning about it, and then don't take too long to go ahead and start executing on that thing. For instance, I know a lot of people who like to do just one type of marketing, right? They like to do videos. They make YouTube videos, for instance. And then what happens is, I remember taking a small group of people and telling them, listen, you're doing well with the YouTube videos, but one way to expand this and to enhance this is to go ahead and start doing live videos. And I remember receiving a lot of opposition from some of these dear folks in the beginning because it was so far from what they did, even though in my mind it wasn't that far. You're already creating video, right? You're already taking the time to make a video. Why not just do it now live? And that way you can go ahead and interact with people and reap all the benefits of doing a live presentation. And a lot of them had the sticking point simply because they knew that if they did a recorded video, what that did was give them a safety net, right? They could take the time to pause, to back up, to re-edit, reshoot, and get the whole thing done again, rather than in one take, rather than dealing with it live. And a lot of them were really uptight about it in the beginning. And essentially it came down to a mental block because they didn't like the idea of messing up in front of the audience. And I told them that's just the nature of the beast with live presentation. You will mess up, but that's okay. I actually argue that that's a benefit to you because it lets your audience know that you're a real person as well. No one expects perfection. They just expect to be led, right? And so if you can lead and if you can show and you can educate and empower and inspire, that right there is what you're going for. Now's the time to go ahead and do it. Try something new, and in the process, you'll be amazed at what you learn and what you discover about yourself. You want to get more creative? Try something new. Number 3, and finally, expand your horizons, okay? Expand your horizons. Kind of sounds like a broad term, right? It kind of sounds like a super broad term. What does it mean? Well, there's a lot of things that it means, but I'm going to draw specific attention to the meaning and definition of expand your horizons that aligns with the whole idea of learning new things, not necessarily trying it, but exploring new things, not only in your arena, but outside of it, and more importantly, about yourself. I'm not necessarily talking about a methodology or a specific technique like the last point where it's time to try something new. What I'm talking about now is trying to really learn and expand yourself in a way that puts you in contact and puts you in the way of other things out there that maybe perhaps you have not already come into contact with in the past. And what this does, or at least what I'm hoping it does for you, is give you new insight and inspiration. So for instance, one way to go ahead and do this is to go ahead and open your mind to an opposing view, right? Open your mind to an opposing view. Now I gotta be very careful when I say that, and I'm going to trust that you receive this with a level of maturity and open-mindedness, even as I'm giving it to you. Because this is one thing that is very hard for people to do, especially marketers, established people, people who are successful. The last thing people want to explore and think about is the thing that they don't believe in, right? Now, again, be very, very careful. I'm not telling you to compromise, any particular convictions or beliefs or faiths that you have. If you want to go ahead and be religious about a certain thing, that's all well and good. I think that you need to go ahead and pick some battles and determine that there are some things that you want to go ahead and be unwavering on. I'm just simply saying open your mind and hear the other side out, right? Especially in certain arenas, So for instance, one thing that I've always seen the pendulum swing on, if I were to give you an example, is that in the health and wellness and fitness industry, right? It seemed like a long time ago, everyone knew that, low impact, steady state cardio, like walking or jogging, was the way to go ahead and lose weight. And that was the best way to do it, right? It was safe, it was healthy, it was established, and you could do it and you could lose weight. And then all of a sudden, it seems like, several years later, 10, 15, 20 years ago, then all of a sudden there was this big craze into doing high impact and high interval training. And that was the only way to get it done and the most effective way to get it done. And now what happens, it seems like as of late, then all of a sudden a lot of people are moving back to the low, steady state and walking and doing things like that again, right? Now instead of swinging the kettlebells, maybe all you need to do is a little bit of yoga, right? Maybe all you need to do is some Pilates, and on it goes. Now, obviously, I'm going to tell you that I believe in a lot of that stuff, and I've done it all. I've done both of it or all of it. And what's the answer? It all works, right? But now that you've exposed yourself to it, now you're not dogmatic about one thing. Here's what you do now. You appreciate the other side, and more importantly, now you can craft specific marketing that targets people involved in each space. Does that make sense? Let's say that I'm a supplement guy guy, or I'm a physical trainer of some sort, and I love kettlebells, which I do, by the way, right? But now if I know what the other party is gonna say, what the other side is gonna say about not doing kettlebells because they like to do dumbbells, or maybe they just like to do walking, or they just like to do cardio kickboxing, now I have talking points, right? And I can find a way to meet us in the middle. Does that make sense, right? The more knowledgeable I am about someone else's side and story and belief, that helps me to penetrate at least to the core of the interest, and now I can get on the same page with them. Imagine how powerful that is when you can connect with someone on their turf and then find a way to slowly craft them to yours, right? Even if it doesn't mean bringing them all the way over. If you're able to meet in the middle, that's still a meeting worth having, and many times a deal can be made when you meet, all right? I know that this is kind of going a little bit out there, right? Maybe a little bit more so than some of the things that I've talked about in the past, and a little bit more intense than some of the more simple, direct stuff. But hear me when I say that there is absolute, and I mean absolute, value in what I'm saying. Expand your horizons, learn more about what is out there, what else is out there. And not only will you possibly become enlightened in a certain way, right? And don't take that too weird. I'm just simply saying you're gonna discover some things and learn some things, but it's very, very useful for you to go ahead and bring that into your sphere, and you can go ahead and do with that what you will. Hopefully I didn't lose you. All right, my friends, I trust that this was helpful to you. Go ahead and leave me a like, a comment, and a share. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button though, and also hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any more hot new content that I got coming down the pipe just for you. This is Jason Ligo with Always Enterprise. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.